I think about times in my life where I was hanging out with the wrong crowd and the type of person I was, the things that I was doing, more importantly, things I wasn't doing.
Experience I had, I got in a motorcycle accident. The car ran a stop sign, no time to react. Ran into the side of the car, crushed my ankle, flew over the car.
Jeez.
And so I duct taped an industrial garbage bag around my cast and I poured concrete 2 days after a motorcycle wreck.
Ladies and gentlemen, another episode of the Mission Control Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stearns. Today, you are in for a treat. We got Dustin Van Orman with Any Hour Group.
Correct.
And services.
Correct.
We're going to talk about group today.
Sounds good.
And then I promise you're going to want to come back because then we're going to talk about the story of the services side. Shout out to the team at Roofer for help making this happen. You need instant roof quotes, clean and pristine proposals. It'll give your prospects no choice but to buy from you. Or anything else. Click the link below. They'll know I sent you. You'll be happy that I did. So, Dustin, I was walking around the conference. I saw you. We started talking. I asked what you do. And you gave me an answer. And the elevator, the story that you told me was your company went from a couple million to 500 million on the services side, which is fucking outrageous growth. I immediately start thinking, okay, there's got to be a lot of headaches, a lot of struggles, trials and tribulations that went along with that. And where my mind went, and the reason why we're having this conversation is I asked you a question, and it was, what was one thing that you could point to that was most impactful in that journey from going to 2 million to 500 million? And your answer was?
Yeah, it's an easy response because I don't even have to think of an answer. I get to travel around and visit with a lot of business owners around the country. And I'll walk through their halls, I'll meet their people, there's the opportunity to just observe and see things in their business. And the one thing that always stands out is their leadership, good or bad, or the need for more, or the training involved for their leaders. It's so frequent and in every stage of business, whether they're 5 million or 10 million or 100 million, even at our size, where for you to progress and grow as a business, you need to develop your leadership. And so often I see people give somebody a management responsibility. Mm-hmm. Let's just take, for example, they throw them in as a service manager and they were a service technician before that. And so what do they know how to do? They know how to go run calls, and that's great. And so, but they don't really know how to be a manager yet. Mm-hmm. And they can figure out how to manage the department, but do they know how to be a leader in that department? When you consider that the number one reason that people leave a business is the direct relationship with their manager. It's funny, I've had multiple times in my career where people have said, hey, so-and-so decided to quit. And man, I'm so glad they're leaving because they're the hardest one of the team to handle. Now, let's be honest, Mike, would you be hard to handle?
Me? No, of course not. Yeah, never. Never gotten that constructive feedback.
Right? What I'm leading at here is oftentimes the hardest people to handle are some of your most powerful, influential people in the business. But because the ability to communicate and lead as a manager might not have been there with that person, they obviously didn't have a relationship that was good enough to keep them, right? People will oftentimes lose some of their best opportunities in people simply because we haven't taught our managers how to be leaders. And so leadership development is the number one thing I see as a need in all businesses, ourselves included. We're always looking to find great leaders and help them train and develop and become influencers in the business.
And I look at it, and it's not binary, right? It's more of a continuum, right? It's not a pass fail, you're a good leader, you're a bad leader, right? There's a range.
Everyone has leadership ability. It's can you help people discover and develop their potential? Some better than others. Some have to work harder than others.
Sure.
But all of us can be leaders.
Yeah.
We do it every day in our lives. If you have a family, you're learning to lead your kids. Whatever it is in life that's part of your journey, we're all leaders and influencers. It's just, are we influencing for good or for bad? And so we're teaching people how to lead in a positive, constructive manner.
I love that. That's super smart. You mentioned something, the difference between a manager and a leader. For those that they're sitting at home and they're watching this right now.
Yeah.
How do you delineate between the two? What's the difference?
Between a manager and a leader, a manager is just doing the functions of that position, right? They're going to cross the T's, dot the I's. But a leader is somebody that can really resonate and connect with the people and understand what their needs are and manage, but also be conscious of how to help the people on their team develop.
I was put in a leadership position when I was like 23 years old.
Yeah.
And I was young, and it turns out folks that, have more experience in something than you, they don't necessarily love you coming into a position of power. And being in charge of making sure that they're doing their job.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. And what I quickly learned was, for me in that role, what helped make me successful and actually make the department successful and carry them from where they were to a much better place was understanding who each of those people were, how they would best learn, not painting with a broad stroke, trying to understand where they were deficient and showing through action that I cared specifically about them and catering a plan of action to them to go from where they're at to where they want to be, right? Yeah. Taking an interest.
So you get thrown into a spot, you're the young guy out there, and they're questioning why in the world did they choose him? He's 5 years, 10 years younger than me.
Yep.
So what's the key to success there? You have to build and earn a relationship with those people.
Yep.
And so how did you do that?
So the way that the company was traditionally ran is you have these 15-minute meetings with the whole team every single day in the morning. And really it was intended to be constructive to where you're going to talk about some of the strengths of the team, opportunities, and then it would usually devolve into beatdowns for 15 minutes, which I think was a poor approach. So what I did is I sat down with there were 30 people in the department. Yeah. I sat down with every one of them. We looked at their numbers. I asked them where they wanted to be. And why do you want to get there? Why is that important to you? So then we started talking about a customized game plan for each individual person. So it was in collections. I did collections throughout college. And, we're cold calling on people that owed student loans, people that fell in hard times, right? So some people, their goal, their path to success was you got to make 200 calls a day because that's what's going to get you the volume to get the amount of contacts that you need. And this is going to be your conversation. This is how you're going to tee it up. And then you're going to get somebody else on the phone once you get them quote unquote qualified as far as positioning a solution for them. Some people, they're going to take it from A to Z, take it from, rack to rack in basketball, and they're going to be able to finish it. So it's partially was empowering the people, understanding what their role was or could be to make them both most successful and give them the best opportunity for that success. And then lending specific, feedback as far as how they can improve what in any facet of their job to realize that goal in the most condensed time frame as possible.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It was interesting.
Yeah. I'm sure you faced challenges, with that age gap and you had to work hard to earn their trust.
Oh yeah.
And it's like any sales. You go to a customer's house, you present options and ideas for them to consider, and they're going to purchase or do a deal with the person they trust the most. And how do you win their trust? Well, you got to earn their like.
Yeah.
If they like you, they're going to trust you more than the other guy, right?
I was talking to a production manager for a roofing company yesterday, and he's like, once in a while I still hop up on the roof. He's like, I've got it. He's like, especially when we have a new crew. They need to know that I know what's going on, that I'm capable of doing it, and most importantly, that I'm willing to do it with them.
And they'll respect and trust him because of it.
Yep. And in my experience in dealing with some roofing contractors, I think that it's easy to miss that. I don't think it's something intentionally that they don't do. I think it's something that bullets are flying, you get caught up in business. It's not something you pay attention to or put a focus on.
Yeah.
And it's easy for that to not be top of mind.
Yeah.
And minimize the impact that it could potentially have. So in your growth journey, how did you get from the point of, okay, we've got this rapidly growing, successful service company to, I'm going to be in M&A. I'm going to be in mergers and acquisitions. We're going to buy companies.
Oh boy. Do you have time for that?
Wait, listen, let it roll, baby.
So let me give you a little bit of history so this makes sense. I started with Any Hour Services in, it was July 1st, 2011. So we're about 13 and a half years.
Okay.
Previous to that, I was self-employed and we're going to have to do another one of these. And I'll get deep with my personal experience, right?
Love it.
But due to a series of events, I found myself interested in partnering with the team there at Any Hour Services to surround myself with capable people going in a similar direction. Okay. When I started there, the business was, call it $2.5 million in revenue total. It's interesting. On my phone, I've got a picture of the original contact list of the entire company on one piece of paper, like quadruple space. There's like 12 people total. Yeah. And now it boggles my mind the size of the business, where we've been able to take things to. I mean, currently we're over 2,000 employees. Okay. And that's pretty neat. So along that journey, I've had opportunity to manage in multiple different positions in the business. I was the marketing manager for a time, the sales manager. I built a whole recruiting program. And then about 3.5 years ago, my favorite is to start new things. I don't like to be in the same position forever, except for now. I actually really am very engaged in what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. And it's been 3.5 years. I feel like I just started, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
anyway, great. 3.5 years ago, I was asked to help with the development of Any Hour Group. A little bit of context there. Years and years ago, we were approached by one of the other consolidation groups, the private equity groups that are out there. And they approached us and asked, well, would you be open to letting us talk to you about buying your business, right? And a lot of companies that might listen to this have been approached.
Yeah.
And our response was, no, heck no, we're not for sale. We're not going to sell our friends out. You know, that was kind of the mentality is, we're going to hold strong. We're going to build this thing. But they said something that kind of got us thinking. They said, well, that's fine. We respect that, but you better get an education, because you're either going to join one of these groups or you're going to have to compete against them. And we're seeing that in our industries right now.
Yeah.
That got us thinking, okay, let's do some research. And we did our diligence. We educated ourselves. And several years later, after that conversation, we felt confident finally to entertain some conversations with some of the other groups out there. Mm-hmm. And they came through our business and they walked around and you could just see them, you know, getting ideas, seeing.
Why are you drooling?
Yeah. But they so funny, because we're feeling okay. We're cautious because we went from being not for sale to, okay, we're going to have this conversation. Right. But we had some barriers up still. And they walked around and said, man, when we acquire your business, or when we buy you out, when we take over.
Assume the sale.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So they're saying all these key words that are just making us feel like it's a takeover. Mm-hmm. We weren't looking for a takeover. We were looking for a partnership with somebody that could offer us resources, tools, and support.
Right.
And those are good groups out there.
Yeah.
But that was the feeling we got, was if we do this, we're selling out. It's going to be a takeover. So we decided not to do it. And that led to many conversations as a team where we discussed, well, what do we want to do? Because we knew we needed to do something. Ultimately, we decided to find a partner who would help us with our own platform. And we formed the Any Hour Group. And so now for the last 3.5 years, I've been sharing with other business owners the benefits they'd find by joining the Any Hour Group, where we can offer real resources, tools, support, management style, training opportunities. We really wanted to create what we couldn't find. Okay. So that's what the Any Hour Group was started and founded on, was the ability to offer a team of people. I mean, here's what I think is valuable. Any Hour services in Utah, where I started 13.5 years ago at $2.5 million in revenue. This year, with all organic growth. Okay. So we've had some great partnerships join us as well, but all organic just in Utah, we'll do about $110 million this year.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
And so what we're offering to people is the leadership team, the resources, the know-how to take your business from 2 to the sky's the limit, right? It's the same leadership team that was there when I started there. We've been developing for years. And, we're talking about leadership development. It's through training and becoming unified through those leadership development opportunities that our team has become strong, and we have a foundation that can offer the support to these other businesses.
I want to talk about more about that in a second. I do want to ask you, if I'm a business owner and I'm sitting here and I'm watching this conversation right now, and I understand the importance of leadership. When I sit here and put myself in those shoes, I think, okay, how do I become aware that I'm anemic as a leader? What are some cues that are going to manifest that I can look at? Because it's obviously we're going to be somewhat biased, right?
I'm going to say this as nice as I can. Okay, there is no nice way.
Pull no
Every
punches.
single one of us has limitations as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you are and how good you are. We all have limitations. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The power in leadership is recognizing and knowing your own limitations so you can surround yourself with talented people that help you overcome those shortcomings. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the guy that's saying, I have no limitations, you have more than anybody.
Yeah.
Because you're blind, right? Your limitation is you're blind. We
That
all
can be a
have
costly
them.
one.
Yeah. And any hour services, any hour group, we wouldn't be who we are today if we didn't recognize our limitations and surround ourselves with people that make us better. Point on that too, we've been establishing the any hour group now for several years. And that's what we're looking for. I know that there's a lot of people that are thinking, oh, maybe I want to do something like this someday. And so what do you want to do to get ready? Well, we're looking for people not just to add a balance sheet to ours. We want to find talented, capable leaders with a strong team that don't need us to hold their hand the whole time. They want to be a part of a group where we can, well, there's three things I'm looking for when I talk to businesses. One, first and foremost, we got to decide if we like each other. Right? So we're going to spend some time. We're going to go to dinner. We're going to laugh a little bit. And if we can't laugh together, it's probably not the best fit.
Yeah.
Right? We want to make, it's a relationship.
Of course.
You know, you get into a relationship because you like people.
Right.
So if we find out that we like each other, that's first. Second is we're looking for teams that can bring a level of contribution to the rest of the group and that can benefit from the expertise of those that they're joining. Make sense?
Yep.
So we got to have mutual benefit in contribution. And third, and I don't even care about number three unless we find one and two, is it's got to be a financial win for everyone involved, right?
Of course.
So we got to be friends. We got to know we can help each other, and then we'll talk money. And if it's a win-win, we find a good deal.
So I know what I know. You don't know what you don't know. And I don't know a ton about mergers and acquisitions.
Sure.
Much like contractors that reach out to me don't know much about marketing and advertising.
You can learn.
I can learn. When a contractor reaches out to me, well, I'm considering these 4 companies. There's no difference for you. You all do websites. You're all working on Google. And one costs this, one costs this, one costs. Like, I don't know who to choose. Why would I choose you? And to that I say, well, here's some questions that you should ask anybody, right? And like, do I own my website? Are you using an agency account, or, will you be working out of my account? Because that's important. So there's things that you can ask to understand what the implications of that relationship are now, and if it does eventually go sideways. And these are things you want to know now, not when you decide to break up in 2 years. So if somebody's considering selling their business and they're talking to a few different companies and they all seem the same.
Yeah.
Are there certain things that they can ask? Are there certain red flags that might be waving that you can tell them about that are worth considering now so that they don't end in a situation that's undesirable in the future?
We could take a whole bunch of time on that question alone. Here's what I'll tell you. This is one of the most important decisions that you're going to make in your life. If you're going to sell your business and either exit or partner or whatever you want to call it with somebody, you got to know what you're getting into. If you're in business, you've heard the horror stories that have happened to some people out there. But here's what I'll point out. They had a bad experience because they weren't educated.
Yep.
They didn't understand exactly what they were getting into, because there's not a right or wrong or a good or bad company out there. Those companies out there that you hear the stories about, usually it's because they moved in and they fired a bunch of people and they changed compensation and they got rid of this or that. There shouldn't be any blindness to that.
Right.
Those companies do that, and that's okay. That's their business model. It doesn't make it bad.
Right.
The person who's had that bad experience is because they didn't do enough diligence to realize that might happen.
Right.
Now, our model at Any Hour is to create a partnership, offer resources and tools, not move in and make a bunch of changes that scare people off. For us, that's the worst thing we could ever do. If you go in and disrupt the business, you lose all your good people. And you've heard about others that come in and do disrupt. I was at a conference with another, I'll leave names out because I want to be fair to people, right? But a conference with another private equity group. They got up and spoke on stage right after I did. Mm-hmm. We did our presentation, and then they got right up, and I said, I'm thinking to myself, well, here we go. Let's see what the competition has to say, right? I gained so much respect for them that day, but here's why I did. Somebody in the audience raised their hand and asked a question. They said, if we join your group, are you going to fire our managers? Okay. And he looked him right in the eye and he said, probably.
Yeah.
He said, I'm in the business of buying companies that need some improvements and fixing, and I'm going to buy them and I'm going to move in, and there's a good chance I'm going to fire you too. He said, if you're a strong business and you want to partner in the industry, go and talk to any of our group in the back of the room. That's their model. Okay. That's exactly what he said. And I actually gained a ton of respect because before then, I kind of felt like there was villains in the industry. Right? That they come in and they fire everybody. But what I realized is they're not villains. They're looking for businesses that need some support, and they're going to come in and make the hard decisions. Now, our model is to look for businesses that don't need to have as many hard decisions made, right?
Right.
But that doesn't make those other groups bad. That's just what they do, and it's okay. That's their business model.
That's where, sometimes it's hard to look in the mirror. So if you're that business owner where you drop the ball on the front end, trying to understand what exactly the implications might be, whether it's 3% likely or 90% likely, it was probably communicated, might have been overlooked, and now this happens.
Well, and that's why this education is so important, because you need to decide what's best for your people and for you. I mean, you've got a whole group of people, a team that's helped you find success in your business. And if you're only being mindful of that paycheck and you're not thinking about the effect that has on the people in your business, you're making a mistake. And now, if you're okay with what happens to your business and you're just getting a check and going to Tahiti, that's your decision. Just make sure you're educated. And if you're fine with that, okay. It's not bad or good. It just is what it is, right? But education in this is so important. And then the other thing to be mindful of is so often people just go for the highest offer up front. This is where your education is so important too, because the way these business models are designed is for you to get multiple payouts through the journey of that business model. Some of the businesses out there, you're not going to be able to take that long-term journey. You're just going to get that upfront one-time buyout, where if you play your cards right and if you do your research, you're picking an investment partner. So, for example, when people join the 80-hour group, we're going to do a valuation on their business. They're going to get a lot of cash. When that happens, we're buying 100% of their business, and then they're going to reinvest a percentage of those proceeds into the group. So they get to own the portfolio company with me, with my team, right? And so they're along for the journey with us, building something incredible. Like I say, we're designed to be successful here. We went from 2 million to 500 million in a very short amount of time. And now we're offering the people that join us the opportunity to invest in the entire pie.
Yeah, I'm sure once, that comes to fruition, they get that second and third payout, they'll be really happy that they did.
It's oftentimes common for people to make more on their investment than they do on the initial purchase. But that's not all opportunities are created equal when it comes to that. There's a lot of startup private equities that who knows if they're going to make it or not. So things that people want to be looking for is, are they reputable? Have they proven that they can do it? There are some that they come in and they just start throwing balance sheets together, just thinking it's all going to work out, and maybe it doesn't. Okay, so you look at a company like ours, we've been doing it for 3.5 years. We're established. We've got 30 locations. We've got partners all over the United States. We're integrated. Things are running smooth. So you know that that's a stable, safe investment, right?
Yeah.
So you can join the team, get your cash off the table, reinvest with the group, and be along for that journey, okay? Others, you may not get that same opportunity. And that's okay if you just choose a different one. I mean, I've talked to some of my friends here that are with other private equity groups. I talked to all of them.
Yeah.
As long as you educate yourself and understand the team you're joining and what they can offer you, there's not a bad decision.
When do I know? When do I know as a business owner when the time is the right time to consider partnering with a group like Any Hour?
Tricky question. I've had experiences with people that said, "Hey, I'm super interested, but just give me 6 months to get my EBITDA just a little bit higher." Right? You've heard this before?
Yeah.
I've had some of those where it backfired on them, and their goal was to get it higher, and it ended up going lower, and then we never became partners. And from my perspective, that's a sad story, because I know what the potential is if they join us.
Right.
When is the right time or the wrong time? Only you can decide. My advice would be, you can build it alone or you can build it together. And together you've got the resources and the support of like-minded, intelligent people to help you on that journey. 6 months isn't going to make a difference. If you feel you're really going to wait, you're really kind of making an educated gamble, right? You're gambling on yourself to do it alone for 6 months or a year or 3 years, whatever.
You're taking the franchise tag.
Yeah, versus joining a team that I know we can help people do better in their business, right? So you just got to weigh the pros and cons, make an educated gamble, decide when it's right for you. The private equity companies, they're all looking for similar things. They want to find continuous growth pattern. They want to find a strong EBITDA in the business, which just means they're profitable. So we want growing, profitable businesses with established processes. And that's why you hear a lot of them say we want businesses that are 10 million plus.
Yeah.
Because if you're 10 million in revenue, you've had time to build a leadership team and have established processes.
And you can run a $3 million company with a person or two without defining process. Yeah.
Correct. And so if they buy the small businesses, and there's opportunity there also, it's just not the same game. The smaller businesses, though, they're counting on just that one person.
Right.
And if that one person's gone, what happens to the business? So that's why you'll typically see them looking for at least 10 million plus. We're happy to look at businesses that are smaller than that, but we're looking for leadership. We're looking for people that are developed enough to be able to continue on their own.
So obviously money, I'm assuming gross net profit, things like that are taken into consideration when it's like, okay, this company's worth this to us, right? Are there other things that are taken into consideration? How many Google reviews you have, how much exposure you have online, how many people are branded consistently looking for your name in your market? Like, are these quantified to any degree when you're considering the value of a company, or is it strictly financials?
They are quantified to determine whether or not we're interested in the company.
So they're a qualifier.
Are they going to change the valuation significantly? Who knows? Maybe a tiny bit. But honestly, that's not the biggest consideration. The consideration is, are they strong? Do they have good people? Do the people support the leadership? Are they falling to pieces, right? If somebody's trying to hide things and you can just tell, we can tell when we walk
every time we open a closet, right? Skeletons come flying out.
Yeah. So when you're looking at like membership plans and the different KPIs and tracking in the business, the booking percentages and closing rates and average ticket, all that stuff matters.
Yeah.
But what we're looking for is a healthy company. Right. Somebody that has enough good stuff to where we can boost them and make them better, but not so much bad stuff that we can't bring them back.
So when you're walking through, do you guys feel the culture of what's going on within the company, the team, outside of just leadership, or is it just leadership that's taken into consideration?
Yeah, we try to. Here's the thing. Most companies don't want the private equity guy walking through their business because that causes disruption.
Yeah.
Right?
Concern.
Correct. And so when I go to visit a business, I actually put on jeans and a polo and casual wear, and I come in and high five and what's up, and we just want to show that we're friends, okay? First of all, because we don't want to upset people there.
Of course.
The thing about that, though, is it's really hard to meet everybody. But we will try to get a feel when we talk to people by not interviewing, but just hanging out with some of their leadership team to kind of see how the morale is. We want to just get a feeling that there is not major problems there, right? If we can get a good feeling about people on a quick walkthrough, we're pretty confident.
What's been the most challenging part transitioning from the services to the group over the last 3.5 years?
The most challenging part? Myself, my own limitations. You don't know my whole background, but I'm just an HVAC tech by trade. When I started with Any Hour, I jumped in a truck and I ran service calls. I can fix things like crazy. And so I had to change my mindset from being a service technician, which I'll always be. I got a whole other story for you next time about
Let's go.
My journey as a service tech. And oh man, it's a good one. We'll save that though.
Okay.
But that's been the biggest thing is overcoming. I've had to go from being a service tech to being a mergers and acquisition specialist.
Feels like that's a long road.
I didn't even know what this world was 3.5 years ago. thankfully, I've got some natural ability. I like to talk to people. I love making friends. And this job is all about relationships. You know, and when people like you, they trust you, you make a deal. I've had success because I'm good at making friends. I actually realized how much I liked this position when I got a call from one of our partners now. It's Rusty down in California at a company called We Care. Mm-hmm. Rusty, he calls me one day, and the deal wasn't even quite done yet, but he calls me. He's like, you've had these conversations before. Hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm working, Rusty. What are you doing? He's like, well, I'm stuck in traffic. I just wanted to see what you're doing. Yeah. I'm like, oh, cool, man. So when I realized that Rusty's calling me just to shoot the breeze because he's stuck in traffic, I'm like, dude, this is cool. Yeah. I'm making real friends. These are real relationships. It's not just a transaction. That's what I love about it is I got friends all over the country now. And I come to these events, and it's funny because I'm at a roofing conference, and our group is in electric, plumbing, heating, and air conditioning. We're not even in roofing. Maybe someday we will be, but I keep getting asked all day long, well, why are you even here? You're not in roofing. Well, because this is where all my friends are. Yeah. This is where the relationships are. This is where connections are made, right? Yeah, this is fun.
I agree. I can't say enough about the power of the statement, like surrounding yourself around like-minded people. Personal relationships, business relationship, and what that means for better or worse for you and the people in your life. I think about times in my life where I was hanging out with the wrong crowd and the type of person I was, the things that I was doing, more importantly, the things I wasn't doing. And then when I started changing that circle and the people that I allowed to, you don't consciously make the decision that you're going to be the average of the three people you hang out with. And maybe that's not the case, but it's probably closer to the case than not the case, right?
Sure.
And the type of, I guess the production and the evolution of, Mike from day 1 to day 3 to day 10 as a result of just putting yourself in different circumstances with different people that have alignment with what you want out of life. It's crazy. And
agreed.
I think in the hustle and bustle of life, and you got family, you got a wife, you got kids, you got a business, you got 37 things to do, you got 7 jobs that went sideways. It's really easy to lose track of that.
Really quickly, and I was going to save this till next time, but part of my journey, before working at Any Hour, I was self-employed. And I had to do everything. I'm going and do the work in the daytime. I'm going home and doing the office work in the evenings. I'm trying to get the marketing figured out. Like, I'm figuring it out on my own. And there's people here today that are in the same position I was before Any Hour. Yeah. Experience I had, I got in a motorcycle accident. A car ran a stop sign, no time to react. Ran into the side of the car, crushed my ankle, flew over the car. Jesus. Had to pick myself up off the ground. Anyway, long story short, I broke my leg, crushed my ankle bones, right? And that was on Friday night. And back in those days, I'd say yes to any work I can get. So I actually had a concrete job scheduled for Monday morning. Now, if you're in construction and you got a concrete truck scheduled for 7 a.m. Monday morning, you don't cancel the concrete truck. Yeah. And so what do? Well, I'm the guy. And so I duct taped an industrial garbage bag around my cast and I poured concrete 2 days after a motorcycle wreck.
That's commitment.
The next day I did a roof, of all things. And I was climbing a ladder with a cast on. And then the next day was heating and air. Like, I was just doing whatever I could do at the time, right? But what happened is Wyatt, who I've been friends with for a long time, Wyatt's the principal owner of the business. He called me up and he said, hey, do you want to go to breakfast? I just want to talk to you. Now, I knew he was trying to get me in there and talk about working with him and stuff. But he called me just a week or two after I'd gotten that cast off my leg. I made it through. I had trusty people that could drive me around and help me, but I had to work every single day of that entire experience trying to take care of customers. And then Wyatt calls me, and so he caught me at a time in life when, there's those things that affect us in life in a new direction. Yeah. He caught me at my vulnerable time, and I saw the value of surrounding myself by like-minded people. I didn't have to be an entrepreneur all alone. I could be an intrapreneur with a team of people and know that people have my back so that if I crash on Friday, I can take a few days off. Right. Anyway, that was a turning point for me. But you're right. Surrounding yourself with like-minded people that have your back, that you know you can rely on, and are going in the same direction as you. You can accomplish so much more with a team than you can alone.
Amen, brother. Amen. Look, I know you're busy and you got things to get to. I appreciate you.
You bet.
I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If this would help someone you know, share it with them.
One last thing. If people are interested in talking more, or if you want to come and visit any of our locations, like I say, we got 30 locations, 10 different states. We can find one close to you, or I'd encourage you to come to Utah, where we're doing 110 million. We have, I know this year we've had over 200 businesses come for a tour. We're doing it almost every single day. You can look us up at anyhourgroup.com, or you can actually call me directly. It might be risky throwing it out there, but
you're going to give them your number
I'm
directly.
Give you my cell phone number.
It's the
You're
kind of guy he
welcome to
is.
call. You bet. So write this down if you're interested. It's area code 801-787-3546. Call me. Let's schedule a time for if you just want to chat and ask a few questions. Great. If you want to come for a tour, and we'll show you what we're doing and how we do it. You know, I hear at these events quite often people say, rob and duplicate, R&D, right? I actually don't really agree with the rob and duplicate philosophy, because we're just going to give it to you. Come and see what we're doing, and I want you to learn.
Put the gun away. You don't.
Yeah. Let's change it to learn and innovate. Okay, come learn stuff, take it home, and make it better.
I fucking love that. You stole my line, though. I was going to tell people, if the people wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do it?
Well,
you're proactive, though, and I appreciate that. And if I'm going to align with someone, it's going to be someone who's like-minded that's proactive. So kudos to Dustin here.
Yeah.
And thanks again for tuning in. Thank you to the team at Roof for help making this happen. And we'll be back with part 2 sooner than later.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.